Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the session on how to efficiently manage and support users and applications on a modern workspace. So that's out of the way. My name is Andreas, not Andrea as the screens are showing. I already asked them to properly write my name. I can understand it's a Dutch name, especially the last one. That's a bit of a challenge. I will not ask you to pronounce it. But why are we here today? Plain and simple. Your workspaces are vulnerable. They are costing you an arm and a leg in maintenance and keeping it up and running. And they should actually be individually managed, but we can't afford to because that just brings in a lot of additional work. And I'm here to tell you that this should not be the case. But the reason why this is that still a lot of organizations approach the workspace in a traditional manner. As in, we come up with a base image, we do some patch management, we have group policies that works. This is not the way forward. And Gartner has shown us earlier this year as well, and what we should be doing is actually look at workspace management much more from a modern approach and doing it in a modular fashion. So have the underlying unified endpoint management type of solution and then pick pieces that are needed to actually make the end result flexible and usable for the end user, and rather than having anything as a monolithic approach. Now, this is actually the same way that Liquidware for the past, well, I don't know, 17, 18 years has been approaching the way we develop products. From our point of view, we say, you know what, there is a delivery platform, and a delivery platform can mean it's a physical device or a virtual device or a cloud-based device. To us, that really doesn't matter. What you want is a unified approach to any of these types of delivery platforms. Same applies to the Windows version, whether you're running a desktop OS or a server OS, and whichever version, as long as Microsoft still supports it, we will make sure that we support it with all of the features within our portfolio. What we do say is, you know what, we need to change the way we approach security. We need to let go of a machine-based approach. We need to let go of just relying on user ID and group memberships. And the next layer is where we say this is where the applications should live. Individually, in the most generic way possible and suited for our organization. So no 10 different versions of the apps packaged inside other packages just to be able to have them work together. No, we need to come up with a solution that actually lets the app live as it was intended originally without all of the management overhead. Anything dealing with the user and the user environment is its own separate layer. There's a lot of crossover between apps and user environment, but from a pure management perspective, those should be considered separate. On top of it lies, in the end, the endpoint analytics. What is going on? What is my devices out there? How should I manage what is actually going on? That is its own little layer. And we should be able to pick pieces out of this stack, whichever makes sense for the use case. As Liquidware, we also said, you know what? We don't want to force you into a certain architecture. I know there's a lot of companies that are now currently forcing their customers to move into public cloud. Under the premise, it's cheaper. Well, I think if you read the news the last couple of months, there's a lot of companies already backtracking on that decision, understanding that for some use cases, it ain't cheaper. So the fact, I expect us to be, okay, there will be certain organizations, let's put it this way, that will still have their fully 100% own environment. I'm not going to be discussing those types of organizations, why they should do so. I think a lot of us will be facing a hybrid type of scenario. And in a hybrid, it's also perhaps not even hybrid as in I have on-prem and cloud, but maybe I have multiple cloud vendors. And we need to be able to manage this. This is what we have done with all of our products, is let you choose your own infrastructure. Choose whatever makes sense for you. And yes, somebody will say, oh, I don't see Alibaba on here yet as a supported cloud vendor. Well, if in 12 months' time, all of a sudden, all of you guys have moved into Asian-based cloud providers, we'll support it. It's more a question of, okay, what is it what we see common once we're dealing with the workspace? So from a modern user environment, a lot of times I get, oh yeah, well, we're doing it with Intune. I'm like, yeah, okay, great, that's a nice start. But Intune, although it still has the label of a unified endpoint management system, it still has the approach of being machine focused. The challenge is that my user is a user. The user has its own little environment and he lives in all kinds of different contexts. And some things you don't need to think about if those conditions are not met. If an app is only usable from an end user perspective, if there is a certain connection available, or if a printer only needs to be able to be there if he is on a certain location, we need to take that into consideration. Because by default, and I'm not taking my wife again as an example, but the average user is a user. They use technology as a means to an end. They are not IT folks like us. They do not understand that if the app is there and they run it, it doesn't work just because some other back-end requirements aren't met. We need to help them, facilitate them in a working environment given the context of the user. And that's what we do. That's what we as Liquidware add into the equation. We also give you insight into what's going on, but we take care of a lot of the contexts when it comes to the user itself. From a modern application management, and I think this is the new buzzword within EUC, is all about applications today. I've seen MSIX and all kinds of different fashions. I'm here to tell you another one. To me, what makes sense is let go of the past. We've tried native installs of application. It's brought us where we are today, in a hot mess. We've tried isolating technology, and a lot of you have already come back from this. Now, there's a lot of great companies, Liquidware being one of them, that have taken the approach of application layering. Application layering gives me the benefits of what we had initially with AppV and having single management of the app without all the downsides, and that interoperability between the OS or the application is somehow limited. To us, it is transparent. If you add a Flex app to an OS, the OS will know that the app is there. From within the app, I can see everything that's going on due to other applications or on the underlying OS. The app is not separate from the OS. And what we have taken care of is a lot of the more common challenges that come into play when you talk about applications. So from a provisioning perspective, again, we've taken the flex part, as in flexible, to the extreme. We offer you the possibility to either leverage our client technology or integrate it into your Intune environment or integrate it into any form of application portal or build-up scenario like Nerdio. It's your choice. What makes sense to your use case is what we will facilitate and support. From a remediation, I always approach it as not so much read-only, but non-persistent. Yes, you can't read or write to the VHD in which the app lives. But the app can write to what it thinks is its natural path because we still have an ancient application. It's just that the next time the machine reboots, it's gone. It's non-persistent. So we do not interfere with the workings of the application. And the beauty, for instance, in this is as well, if you have stacked applications, they will work. So even if you have Office in your base image, but you want to layer a Office plugin, you can do so. The plugin will see Office and Office will see the plugin and they can interoperate. But you can take them away just as easily. From a packaging perspective, one of the main concerns I've heard over the past 2 years since I joined Liquidware has been packages are expensive, hard to come by, not all of them really know what they're doing. So we've invested quite a lot into making the packaging process simple. One of them being automated packaging, which is basically our API that we can then leverage PowerShell, for instance, to read out whatever is in SCCM, tell the packaging street to automatically package everything we currently have defined within SCCM, and at the end have a full stack of Flex apps ready for us to do quality assurance on. But even if I have a package that I needed to change something, we've made our package. I tend to walk around the stage and I'm not allowed to. We've made our packager as simple as being able to just drag and drop stuff in there and make changes. So once the package is coming out of the automated packaging, or you've made it manually, you can then easily go back in and change certain things. Delete a certain registry or add a certain file, just because your installation process actually described that as a requirement for your organization. And from a security perspective, we offer the possibility to have a certificate attached to applications that need to be deployed to physical endpoints. We do not mandate it. We offer the possibility to integrate OAuth authentication, meaning if we make an application as portable as we are, the risk of our company IP getting in the hands of somebody else who's not authenticated against our identity provider, in our case Azure, that's a huge risk. What we can now do is actually attach the requirement for the user to validate himself as being part of our organization before they can actually run the application itself. So we have a twofold trust in this case. First of all, we can leverage the certificate for the user to make sure, hey, this is indeed an app the company has provided, and it's a company who have the security measure to check if the user is actually part of the group of people that we allow this application to be run. Even though it's as portable as can be, and I can just give you a USB stick filled with Flex apps, you can run them on your device and accept those that I require you to authenticate against. Another thing we introduced recently is the possibility to add cloaking. You need to understand application layering can happen at 3 points in time during the life cycle of a workspace. One is during boot up of the machine, one is at user login, and one is on demand. What we can now do is we can say, you know what, a certain set of applications are mounted at boot, but the user will only actually have access and see them if they have been assigned the rights to the application. If not, we're just hiding them from them. So we can have a very basic, simple base image and then add on top, basically compile the workspace if and when needed. Now, the last question I always get asked is, will my applications work? And obviously, then my marketing department will come in and say, oh, we have 90% plus. Marketing will actually say 95% plus for application compatibility. I always say 90. But that still doesn't tell you anything. So luckily, we are now working with some companies. This is App Readiness. We're working with Remo3 to actually do a lot of this validation. But App Readiness recently wrote out a post, and after this morning's session, maybe I should adapt some of these columns, because I saw some things that can be done, quote unquote. But out of the box, this is what they found. And they found that FlexApp has the biggest support for all the different flavors of applications and application requirements. But I think the biggest one is the interoperability and the usability from an end user perspective of the application. We do not change the way an application works. We give it as it was intended when you manually install it. And that's your base starting point when you think about moving from traditional approaches to application layering. So in short, because I only had 15 minutes, and it's always a challenge for me, what you need to take away is, please, from now on forward, think about your workspace in a much more modular approach. That's the key message. Make sure that you have a platform agnostic solution. What we do is, if you've packaged your app once on Windows 10, it doesn't matter. As long as the app itself still works on whichever target platform you're using, the Flex app will work as well. There's no need to repackage your application once you move from Windows 10 to Windows 11, or for single user to multi-user. Try to find a solution that has automation. All of our stuff is basically suited for infrastructure as code. Anything we do within our console, be it packaging, be it assigning of applications, can be written in code. And make sure that you have something that has integrated security, not just a certificate, because a certificate is only the first step in securing your environment. Make sure you have a solution that works nicely and well and as it was intended with the solution you've chosen. And if you really want to go onto the edge, feel free to scan the QR code. I have some FlexApp ones available that you can just download out of my OneDrive and just try for yourself. The first time it will require admin privileges, but that's just to install the kernel level driver. All of the mounting of applications use on user level. So in a corporate environment, there's no need for the user to have admin rights in order to leverage FlexApp. And that's it. Any questions? Everybody's thinking, you know what, I think there's a break right after this one, right? I'll stop by the booth if I have a question. Well then, thank you for your time. Have a great day.